Commander Elena Vasquez had been awake for 36 hours. Her eyes burned. Her head felt like someone had filled it with wet sand. The translator implant behind her ear had been glitching for the past 3 hours, turning the beautiful flowing language of the Velith into random, buzzing sounds. She just wanted to find her quarters and sleep. The Celestial Palace was massive. It stretched across an entire mountain, carved from living crystal that glowed with soft inner light. Elena had lived here for 8 months, but she still got lost. The hallways all looked the same to human eyes. Tall arches, flowing patterns on the walls, doors that opened when you touched specific spots that she could never remember. The Velith were beautiful and terrifying. They stood 9 feet tall, with bodies made of something between glass and shell. Light moved inside them like trapped lightning. They had ruled their empire for 100,000 years. To them, humans were interesting animals, smart enough to talk to, too young to respect. Elena was one of 3 humans allowed inside the inner palace. She worked as a diplomatic helper, spending her days in endless meetings about mining rights and trade routes. The Velith wanted the metals in human space. Humans wanted Velith technology. Neither side trusted the other. Today's meeting had lasted 12 hours. The Velith did not understand human exhaustion. They did not need sleep the way humans did. To them, Elena's tiredness was a sign of weakness. She walked through corridor after corridor. The lights dimmed as night cycle began. Her translator buzzed and clicked uselessly. She should have asked for directions. But the Velith guards looked at her like she was a bug that had wandered into their home. She was too tired for their silent judgment. There, a door with golden patterns around it. That looked right. The ambassador's quarters had golden patterns. She was almost certain. She pressed her palm against the door. It slid open with a soft hiss. Steam hit her face. Warm, wet air filled with strange, sweet smells. Soft music floated through the mist. Not music exactly. Singing. Many voices joined, together in harmony. This was not the ambassador's quarters. Elena's exhausted brain took too long to react. She should have stepped back immediately. She should have run. Instead, she stood frozen as the steam cleared enough for her to see. The room was enormous. A pool of glowing water stretched across the floor, lit from below by soft blue light. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. Around the edges of the pool stood 12 figures in hooded robes, their faces hidden. And in the center of the pool stood the Empress. Elena had seen Empress Ezzelith before, from a distance, at formal ceremonies. The Empress was ancient and powerful, her crystalline body shining with inner fire. She ruled the 12 star systems of the hegemony with absolute power. Billions lived and died at her word. But the Empress that Elena saw now was different. Her shell was open. Elena did not know that Velith bodies could open. She had thought their crystalline forms were solid, like armor. But the Empress's chest had split apart like a flower blooming. Inside, where the light should have been, Elena saw something soft, something organic, pulsing, vulnerable. The Empress looked like a creature being born. Her inner body was pale and wet, curled inside the shell that had protected it. She looked fragile. She looked almost human. The hooded figures continued their singing. They moved around the pool in a slow dance, their robes dragging in the water. One of them held something in their hands. A blade. It was long and curved, made of dark metal that did not reflect the light. The figure holding it moved closer to the Empress. Closer. The singing grew louder. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The sound echoed across the water like a gunshot. 60 eyes turned toward her. The singing stopped. For one eternal moment, nobody moved. Elena saw the hooded figures clearly now. Some of them had faces she recognized. High nobles, military commanders, members of the imperial family itself, and they all looked at her with expressions of pure horror. The Empress's eyes met Elena's. Those ancient eyes, usually cold and distant, were now wide with shock, with fear, with something Elena could not name. Then the guards came. They seemed to appear from nowhere. Massive Valith warriors in armor that looked like it had grown from their bodies. They seized Elena with hands that could crush steel. She did not resist. She could not have resisted even if she tried. The last thing she saw before they dragged her away was the Empress, still standing in the pool with her body split open, still vulnerable, still staring at Elena with those impossible eyes. The guards threw Elena into a cell carved from solid crystal. The door sealed behind her with a sound like a tomb closing. She sat on the cold floor and tried to understand what she had seen. A ritual. Something sacred and secret. The hooded figures, the blade, the Empress with her shell split open. It looked like a ceremony, but it also looked like something else. It looked like an assassination about to happen. Elena pressed her hands against her face. Her translator was still broken. She could not call for help. She could not explain that this was an accident. She could not tell anyone what she had witnessed. She thought about the blade. The way that hooded figure had been moving toward the Empress. The fear in those ancient eyes. Maybe she had interrupted something terrible. Maybe she had accidentally saved the Empress's life. Or maybe she had just seen a sacred ritual that no outsider was ever meant to see. Either way, she was probably going to die. Elena had read about Valith justice. They did not have trials the way humans did. They had tribunals. Formal ceremonies where the accused stood before judges and received their punishment. The punishment for violating sacred spaces was atomization. They would take her apart molecule by molecule. She thought about Earth, about her mother's garden with its roses and tomatoes, about her sister's laugh, about the way the sun looked setting over the ocean. She would never see any of it again. The cell was cold. The crystal walls glowed with soft light that never changed. Elena curled up on the floor and waited for whatever came next. She did not cry. She was too tired to cry. Instead, she closed her eyes and remembered the Empress's face. That moment of raw vulnerability. That flash of fear. The most powerful being in 12 star systems, and for one moment, she had looked almost human. Elena held on to that thought as she finally fell into exhausted sleep. She did not know that her life had just changed forever. She did not know that her accident would reshape the future of 2 civilizations. All she knew was that she had walked through the wrong door, and there was no going back. The noble houses screamed their outrage for 3 days. Elena watched from her new quarters in the inner sanctum. The rooms were larger than her entire apartment back on Earth. Crystal walls that shifted color with her mood. Furniture that grew from the floor when she needed it. A window that looked out over the glowing city below. She was a prisoner. A very comfortable prisoner, but a prisoner nonetheless. The Empress had named her Keth Valori, witness bound, an ancient title that had not been used in 6,000 years. Elena did not fully understand what it meant, but she understood enough. She belonged to the Empress now. She would see all secrets. She would speak none of them. The price of breaking her oath was something the Valith called the unmaking. They would not just kill her body. They would erase her mind, her memories, her very soul. She would cease to exist in every way that mattered. Elena tried not to think about it. The noble houses sent representatives to protest. They filled the throne room with their anger. A human elevated to sacred status? It was an insult to their culture. It was a violation of everything the hegemony stood for. The Empress listened to them all. Then she dismissed them with a wave of her hand. "The decision is made," she said. "The witness bound serves at my pleasure. This matter is closed." But the matter was not closed. Elena could see it in the way the nobles looked at her. cold hatred burning behind their crystalline eyes. They would not forget this insult. They would not forgive. 3 weeks after the tribunal, the Empress summoned Elena to her private chambers. The room was simple compared to the rest of the palace. Plain walls, soft lighting, a single window looking out at the stars. The Empress stood before the window, her back to Elena. "Do you know why I spared your life?" she asked. Elena had been wondering that since the trial. "You said I saved you. That my interruption stopped something terrible." "Yes." The Empress turned. In the soft light, she looked almost fragile. "The shedding rite. Do you know what it is?" Elena shook her head. "Every century, my body must renew itself. The old shell breaks open. The new shell forms. It is a time of great vulnerability. For 3 days, I cannot defend myself. I cannot run. I cannot fight." The Empress moved closer. Elena could see the faint lines running through her crystalline form, cracks that had not been there before. The hooded figures you saw were not priests performing a ritual. They were assassins performing a coup. Elena's blood went cold. "The blade was meant for my heart. In the moment of shedding, when my shell was open and my core exposed, they planned to kill me, but I interrupted them. Your gas broke their timing. In that moment of confusion, my loyal guards identified the traitors and stopped the attack." The Empress smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face. "You saved my life with a mistake." Elena did not know what to say. She had stumbled into a bathroom and accidentally stopped an assassination. "But that is not the only reason I kept you alive," the Empress continued. "I kept you because I saw something in you. Something I have not seen in 10,000 years. What? Courage. Not the courage of warriors who know they will win. The courage of someone who knows they will lose and fights anyway." The Empress's eyes glowed brighter. "You stood before my tribunal and demanded the right to speak. You offered your life as a guarantee of your word. No Valith would do that. They would accept their fate in silence. But you fought." Elena felt her cheeks grow warm. "I was terrified. I know. I could see it. But you fought anyway. That is what makes you valuable." The Empress turned back to the window. Her reflection shimmered in the glass. "There is something else you need to know. Something I have not told anyone outside my closest advisors." Elena waited. The shedding failed. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "My new shell is flawed. It will not last. The cracks you see are not old wounds. They are new. They are growing." The Empress touched the glass with one long finger. "I am dying, Commander Vasquez. I have perhaps 5 years before my body crumbles completely." Elena felt the floor shift beneath her feet. 5 years? The hegemony has no heir. My children were among the conspirators. They are now dead or imprisoned. There is no one to take my place. What happens when you die? War. The noble houses will fight for the throne. Systems will burn. Billions will die." The Empress turned back to Elena. "Unless I find another way." Elena understood now why she was really here. Not just as a witness to secrets, as a problem solver, as a fresh perspective, as someone who could think outside the rigid traditions of Valith culture. "You want my help," Elena said. "I want your humanity, your chaos, your impossible ability to see solutions where we see only tradition." The Empress moved toward Elena, close enough to touch. "In 8 months, you learned our language, our customs, our weaknesses. You earned the hatred of every noble house. And you survived. No alien has ever done that. I was just trying to do my job. And that is exactly what I need. Someone who sees problems as problems, not as opportunities for political games. Someone who cares about solutions more than status. Elena looked into the Empress's ancient eyes. She saw desperation there. Fear. Hope. "I'm just a human," Elena said. "I can't save an empire." "Perhaps not," the Empress replied. "But perhaps you can show an empire how to save itself." She extended one crystalline hand. Elena looked at it for a long moment. She thought about Earth, about her family, about all the reasons she should refuse this impossible task. Then she thought about war, about billions dying because she was too afraid to try. She took the Empress's hand. "Tell me everything," Elena said, "and I'll do what I can." The Empress smiled again. This time, it looked almost warm. "That is exactly what I needed to hear." That night, Elena began learning the true secrets of the Veilith hegemony. The dying empire, the crumbling infrastructure, the ancient traditions that were slowly strangling civilization, and she began to see the shape of something impossible, a way forward, a way to save them all. Elena woke to the sound of her cell door opening. Guards stood in the doorway, their armored bodies blocking the light. They did not speak. They simply grabbed her arms and pulled her to her feet. Her translator was still broken. The guards said nothing she could understand. Their voices were just noise, harsh sounds that meant nothing. They dragged her through endless corridors. Other Veiliths stopped to watch. Their crystalline faces showed no expression, but Elena could feel their judgment, their disgust. She was a primitive creature who had violated something sacred. The tribunal chamber was the largest room Elena had ever seen. It rose hundreds of feet into the air, its walls covered with glowing symbols that shifted and changed. Thousands of Veilith filled the galleries, watching from above like an audience at a theater. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform. Elena was pushed onto it. Her legs shook, but she forced her to stand straight. If she was going to die, she would die with dignity. 12 judges sat on thrones carved from black crystal. They wore robes of deep purple, and their eyes glowed brighter than any Veilith Elena had seen before. These were the high judges, the oldest and most powerful beings in the hegemony. The head judge rose. He was ancient. Cracks ran through his crystalline body like old scars. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber. Alana's translator crackled. For a moment, there was only static. Then, slowly, the words began to make sense. Charged with 3 crimes against the sacred order. First, desecration of sacred mystery. Second, violation of the Empress's privacy. Third, witnessing the unwitnessable. The crowd made a sound. It was not quite a gasp, not quite a growl. It was the sound of thousands of beings expressing horror at the same time. Each crime carries the sentence of atomization, the head judge continued. The accused will be unmade. Her molecules will be scattered across the void. Her existence will be erased from all records. Elena felt cold. Her heart pounded in her chest. But she did not look away from the judges. She would not show fear. A Veilith noble stepped forward. He was tall and proud, his crystalline body shining with inner light. When he spoke, his voice dripped with contempt. "This was no accident," he declared. "Humans are known for their deception. This creature was sent to spy on our most sacred ritual. She is an agent of her government. Her crime is not just violation. It is war." The crowd rumbled with agreement. "I demand that the hegemony respond with force," the noble continued. "The human worlds must be punished. Their species must learn the cost of defying us." Elena's stomach dropped. War. They were talking about war. Because she had walked through the wrong door, millions of humans would die. Her family, her friends, everyone she had ever known. All because she was too tired to read a door correctly. She could not let that happen. "I want to speak." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. But in the vast silence of the chamber, everyone heard her. The head judge tilted his ancient head. "The accused does not have the right to speak." "Then give me that right." The crowd erupted in noise. Veilith voices overlapped in shock and outrage. A human demanding rights in a hegemony court? It was unthinkable. It was offensive, but the head judge raised one hand, and the crowd fell silent. "In 10,000 years," he said slowly, "no accused is asked to speak before the tribunal. Then I'm the first." Something flickered across the judge's ancient face. It might have been anger. It might have been curiosity. Elena could not tell. "Very well," he said. "The accused may speak. But choose your words carefully, human. They may be your last." Elena took a deep breath. Her translator was working better now, picking up the nuances of the alien language. She had one chance. One moment to save her life and prevent a war. She thought about what she had seen. The Empress with her shell split open. The hooded figures. The blade. And she thought about what she knew of Veilith culture. Their obsession with power. Their fear of weakness. Their ancient traditions that valued strength above all else. "I saw the Empress vulnerable," Elena began. "I saw her at her weakest moment. In your culture, that makes me dangerous. I know something I should not know. I have power over her." The crowd stirred. The judges leaned forward. "But in my culture," Elena continued, "witnessing someone's vulnerability does not give you power over them. It creates a bond, a connection. When you see someone at their weakest, you become responsible for them. You become their protector." She turned to face the galleries. Thousands of Veilith eyes stared down at her. The Empress saw me see her. In that moment, she gave me something precious. She gave me her trust. Not by choice, but by accident. And now I have a choice. I can use what I saw to hurt her, or I can use it to protect her. Elena dropped to her knees. The floor was cold and hard beneath her. "I offer my silence," she said. "I swear on my life, on my family, on everything I love, that I will never speak of what I saw. Not to my government, not to my people, not to anyone." She looked up at the judges. "I offer my life as the price of that promise. If I ever break my silence, you may take everything from me. But until that day, I ask for mercy. Not because I deserve it, but because mercy is what separates civilization from savagery." The chamber fell completely silent. Elena stayed on her knees, her heart pounding. She had said everything she could say. Now her fate was in alien hands. The judges whispered among themselves. The crowd watched in stunned silence. No one had ever seen anything like this. A human kneeling before the tribunal, offering her life as a guarantee of loyalty. Then a door opened at the far end of the chamber. The Empress entered. She moved slowly, her crystalline body reflecting the light of 1,000 glowing symbols. Her shell was closed now, whole and perfect. But Elena could still see the memory of what lay beneath. That soft, vulnerable core. That frightened ancient face. The crowd parted before the Empress like water before a ship. She walked to the center of the chamber and stopped before Elena. Their eyes met. Elena saw something in those ancient eyes. Recognition, understanding, and something else. Something that looked almost like respect. The Empress spoke one word. "Wait." The guards froze. The judges fell silent. Even the crowd seemed to stop breathing. The Empress studied Elena for a long moment. Then she turned to face the tribunal. "This human saved my life," she said. "She does not know it yet, but her interruption stopped something terrible from happening." The crowd erupted in confused whispers. "There will be no execution," the Empress continued. "There will be no war. This human will serve a different purpose." She looked down at Elena. "Rise, Commander Vasquez." Your old life is over. Your new life begins now." Elena stood on shaking legs. She did not know what was coming next, but she knew somehow that everything had changed. 6 months passed faster than Elena expected. She learned the old tongue, the ancient language that only the highest nobles spoke. She learned the secret histories, the true stories behind the official records. She learned who could be trusted and who was waiting for a chance to strike. She also learned that humans were strange and wonderful creatures. The first test came when a plague struck a border world, a bacterial infection that spread through the air, killing thousands within days. The Violeth had no experience with biological disease. Their crystalline bodies did not get sick the way organic creatures did. They responded with their usual solution. They planned to destroy the planet, burn the infection. The military commanders argued. Sacrifice one world to save the rest. Elena sat in the War Council, the only organic being in a room full of crystal giants. She listened to their cold logic, their efficient calculations, the acceptable losses. Then she spoke. On Earth, we had plagues too. Terrible ones. Millions died. But we did not burn our cities. We learned to contain the sickness, to treat it, to survive. The commanders stared at her with something like confusion. You have faster than light travel, Elena continued. Use it. Quarantine the planet. Send medical ships instead of bombers. Find the source of the infection and stop it. That would take months, one commander protested, and risk spreading the plague further. Destroying the planet will take seconds, but you will lose the planet forever. Its resources, its people, its future. Elena met their eyes one by one. Is efficiency worth that cost? The Empress, watching from her throne, raised one hand. Do as the human suggests, she said. Quarantine, treatment, containment. The commanders obeyed. They did not like it, but they obeyed. 3 months later, the plague was contained. The planet survived. 12 million people lived who would have died. The noble houses began to whisper. The human had done something impossible. She had saved a world with patience instead of fire. The second test came when negotiations with the Kreth Collective stalled. The Kreth were insectoid beings, their bodies covered in shimmering scales. They communicated through pheromones, chemical signals that the Valeth could not detect or understand. The negotiations had lasted for decades. Both sides wanted the same resource-rich asteroid belt. Neither side would compromise. Elena was assigned to observe the latest round of talks. She sat in the corner, watching the Valeth diplomats fail again and again to connect with their Kreth counterparts. Then she noticed something. The Kreth leader moved constantly, shifting weight, raising and lowering limbs, adjusting posture. The Volith ignored these movements, focused only on words, but Elena recognized the patterns. Body language. She had studied communication at the academy. Humans used body language instinctively, reading posture and gesture as easily as words. The Kreth, she realized, were doing the same thing. Their pheromones carried meaning, but so did their movements. She waited for a break in the negotiations. Then she approached the Kreth leader. The Volith diplomats watched in horror as Elena began to move. Not speaking, just moving, shifting her weight, raising her arms, tilting her head. She was dancing. The Kreth leader froze. Then, slowly, it began to move in response. For 10 minutes, Elena and the Kreth communicated without words. Through movement, through gesture, through the ancient language of bodies that did not need translation. When she finally stopped, the Kreth leader made a sound that the translators interpreted as laughter. The soft one understands, it said. The soft one speaks true. Within a week, a treaty was signed. Both sides got access to the asteroid belt. Both sides celebrated a victory dot, and Elena became something more than a curiosity. She became valuable, but not everyone was happy about her. Success. The conspiracy had not ended with the failed assassination. It had only gone deeper underground. The nobles who hated the Empress still plotted. They still waited for their chance, and now they saw an opportunity. Lord Thiessen came to Elena one night. He was a high noble, his crystalline body shining with inner fire. He had been part of the original conspiracy, but he had not been exposed. He still moved freely through the palace. "You have done well, human," he said. "Better than anyone expected." Elena kept her face neutral. "I serve the Empress. For now. But she is dying. Everyone knows it. When she falls, there will be chaos. War. Unless someone is ready to take control." Elena said nothing. "We can offer you a deal," Thiessen continued. "Help us speed the Empress's death. Make it look natural. And when we take power, humanity will be rewarded. 3 colony worlds instead of the single asteroid you are currently negotiating for. 3 worlds. Millions of humans could live on 3 worlds. Build cities. Raise families. Create a future. All Elena had to do was betray the Empress. She thought about her home, her family, all the humans who were counting on her to succeed, and she thought about the Empress. That moment of vulnerability in the pool, that flash of fear in those ancient eyes. "I need time to think," Elena said. Thiessen smiled. "Take all the time you need, but not too long. Opportunities fade quickly in politics." He left. Elena sat alone in her quarters, staring at the stars. She could do it. She could help the conspiracy. She could save millions of human lives. But she had made a promise. She had offered her silence, her loyalty, her word. Humans, the good ones, kept their promises. Elena went to the Empress that night. She told her everything. The conspiracy, the offer, the names of everyone involved. "I considered it," Elena admitted. "For one terrible moment, I thought about saying yes. 3 worlds could change everything for my people." The Empress studied her with those ancient eyes. "Why did you refuse?" "Because I made a promise. And because you trusted me when you had no reason to. You showed me your weakness. I could not use that against you." For a long moment, the Empress was silent. Then she did something Elena had never seen before. She laughed. It was a strange sound, like crystal bells chiming in the wind. But it was genuine. It was warm. 6,000 years I have ruled," the Empress said. "I have seen countless betrayals, countless broken promises. And now a human comes to me in the middle of the night to confess a temptation she did not yield to." She touched Elena's face with one crystalline finger. "You are the strangest creature I have ever met. Commander Vasquez, is that good or bad?" "It is exactly what I needed." The purge began that night. Thiessen and his allies were arrested. The conspiracy was finally, completely destroyed, and Elena realized that she had done something more than survive. She had earned the Empress's trust, not through grand gestures or clever plans, through honesty, through humanity, through keeping her word when breaking it would have been easier. It was, she thought, the most human thing she had ever done. The Grand Tribunal gathered for the first time in 1,000 years. Every noble house sent representatives. Every system had voices in the chamber. The galleries were filled with Velith from every corner of the hegemony, watching and waiting. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, exactly where she had stood 1 year ago as a condemned prisoner. But today, she was not begging for her life. Today, she was offering a future. The Empress sat on her throne, watching silently. Her crystalline body showed the damage now. Cracks ran through her shell like spider webs. She moved slowly, carefully, like something precious that might break at any moment. Everyone knew she was dying. The secret was no longer a secret. "The hegemony faces a crisis," Elena began. Her voice carried through the vast chamber, amplified by the crystal walls. "The Empress is dying. There is no heir. When she passes, the noble houses will fight for the throne. Systems will burn. Billions will die." The crowd murmured. No one had spoken so bluntly about the succession before. It was not done. It was not proper. But Elena was not Valeth. She did not care about proper. "I have spent the past year studying your empire, your history, your biology, and I have found something that might save you." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed the crystalline structure of a Valeth body, magnified 1,000 times. "Your shells require specific elements to regenerate. Rare metals. Minerals found in only a few places in the galaxy." She zoomed in on the molecular structure. "When these elements are lacking, the regeneration fails. The shell cracks. The body dies. We know this," one of the nobles called out. "Our minds are depleting. It is why we sought the human asteroid belt." "Yes, but your minds have been depleting for centuries, and your population has been declining for just as long." Elena changed the display to show a graph. "You are not just running out of resources. You are dying. Your entire species is dying." The chamber erupted in angry voices. How dare this human speak of Valeth weakness? How dare she expose their shame before the entire hegemony? Elena waited for the noise to die down. "But there is another source of these elements," she continued. "A source you have never considered because you were too proud to ask." She changed the display one more time. A blue-green planet appeared, spinning slowly in the void. "Earth." The crowd fell silent. "Human space is rich in the elements you need. Our planets, our asteroids, our moons. We have more than we could ever use." Elena looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. "We could trade with you, give you the elements you need to survive. In return, you could share your technology, your knowledge, your experience. Trade with humans?" Lord Thison's replacement sneered. "Admit that we need something from primitives? It would be the end of Valeth pride." "Your pride is already killing you," Elena replied. "Every year, fewer children are born. Every year, more elders crumble to dust. In 100 years, there will be no hegemony. Just empty palaces and dead worlds." She stepped forward, toward the noble houses. "I am not asking you to bow to humanity. I am asking you to survive, to adapt, to change." She spread her arms wide. "You have ruled the stars for 100,000 years. Are you really going to let pride destroy everything you built?" The chamber was silent. Elena could feel the weight of their stares. The judgment, the hatred, the fear. Then the Empress rose from her throne. She moved slowly, her cracked body catching the light. Every step seemed to cost her something. But she walked to the center of the chamber and stood beside Elena. "I have ruled for 400 years, the Empress said. Her voice was weaker than it used to be, but it still commanded attention. "I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched the proud become dust because they could not adapt." She turned to face the noble houses. This human walked into my most sacred moment. She saw my weakness, my vulnerability, my fear. The Empress's eyes glowed with inner fire. And instead of using that knowledge against me, she offered me her trust. She offered me her loyalty. She offered me her word. The Empress placed one crystalline hand on Elena's shoulder. She saved my life with an accident. She saved my empire with her honesty. And now she offers to save my species with her world's resources. The Empress looked at the tribunal. The old ways say that a witness bound must be silent until death, that she should never speak of what she has seen. The Empress smiled. But this witness speaks, and I choose to listen. She turned back to the noble houses. Perhaps it is time for the hegemony to learn a human lesson. Witnessing someone's vulnerability is not power over them. It is connection with them. It is the beginning of trust. The Empress raised her voice. I call for a vote. The proposal is simple. Full diplomatic partnership with humanity. Trade agreements. Technology sharing. A new alliance that benefits both our peoples. The vote took hours. Every noble house debated. Every system weighed the options. Pride fought against survival. Tradition fought against change. In the end, survival won. The treaty was signed at sunset, as the light from a distant star painted the crystal walls in shades of gold and orange. The Empress pressed her seal into the document. Elena signed beside her. Ambassador Vasquez, the Empress said. The first human ambassador to the 12 systems. Elena looked at the document. Her hand was shaking. She had come here as a diplomatic helper, someone to take notes and fetch coffee. Now she was reshaping the future of 2 civilizations. I still don't understand, she said quietly. Why me? Why trust a human with all of this? The Empress smiled. Her crystalline face was cracked, but her eyes were warm. Because you walked through the wrong door. And instead of running, you stayed. You faced your fear. You kept your word. The Empress touched Elena's face with one gentle finger. That is the most human thing about you, Ambassador. And it is exactly what we needed to learn. Years later, historians would argue about what had saved the Valith hegemony. Some said it was the trade agreements, the flood of rare elements that revitalized their population. Some said it was the cultural exchange, the new ideas that broke the grip of tradition. But those who were there, who saw it happen, knew the truth. It was a tired human woman who walked through the wrong door and refused to apologize for it. Elena Vasquez served as ambassador for 30 years. She witnessed the birth of a new era. She watched humans and Valith work together, build together, grow together. And sometimes, late at night, she would stand at her window and look out at the stars. She would think about that moment in the bath. The steam, the singing. The Empress with her shell split open, and she would smile, because that moment of accident, that instant of mistake, had changed everything. The wrong door had led to the right future. And that, Elena thought, was the most human thing of all.